Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you everyone from the Renault team for joining. My name is Fabian. Maybe we can kick off with a quick round of introductions, and then we can get into the meat of it. I'll just start. So my name is Fabian Zimmer. I'm the product manager for Geo. So I don't do any implementation work, but I'm always thinking about what we are going to do next to serve our customers. And so I'm quite excited to see this project because it ties into some potential things that we were planning to do in 2021 for Geo. And so I decided to actually reach out. So that's me. Maybe we can go through the Geo team first because we are essentially your guests. Alex.
Hey, I'm Alex. I'm a backend engineer on the Geo team. I'm not quite sure what else I'm supposed to say about that, but
that's fine.
I'm excited to hear from you.
I can go next. I'm Akriti. I'm a backend engineer as well on the Geo team. And I'm generally just interested in talking to our users, seeing how they use the product, what else could be interesting for them.
Go ahead. I'm Nick Wynn, engineering manager for the Geo team.
I'll go as the other Nick. I'm Nick Westbury. I'm a software engineer and test, so I'm mainly focusing on how we set up and reliably test like Geo and all the different functionality we offer.
I'm Valery. I'm a big developer. I'm working on Geo for the last few years.
Hi, I'm Sunjung. I'm a product designer working for Geo, and I would love to hear from your thoughts and experience of using Geo to make our product better. So thank you.
I think that's all of us.
Okay, so I will start. I'm Nicolas Chamsiot from Renault. So I'm a product owner on several continuous integration services that we developed inside Renault. And the Git CDN is part of it. And as you, I'm not doing any implementation. I'm just trying to build up a roadmap for our services and to keep the service aligned with our needs.
Super.
So I'm Pierre. I originally wrote the Git CDN proof of concept when we were having some issues doing the GitLab over AWS. So we needed something to have a local mirror of the Git trees. And then the project has been handed over to Nicolas' team.
Hello, I'm Justin. I am one of the developers, and so I have taken the work from Pierre and I have debugging it on our live server. And so I have added a lot of logging, and I also added some cache, some upload pack cache for Git, and that's about it.
Sébastien Michel. I work with Nico and Joss. And I am a developer, team developer.
Hi, I am Gaëtan. I work with Joss and Nicolas, and not this guy here. And I'm a software developer as well. Okay.
Super. Okay, I think that's everyone. Thank you so much for your introductions. And so I'll quickly outline. I'll be honest. I haven't specifically designed a specific agenda. I thought we could use this time to get to know each other a little bit and understand where we are all coming from. And so, obviously, our team in GitLab, right, maintains the geo replication and also the disaster recovery capabilities. And so I stumbled upon that because this was linked as an interesting project, actually by our CEO, Sid. And so I decided, I had not seen this before, that this would be a really interesting thing to just align on and see and understand why you actually decided to implement this functionality, how you use it, and learn a little bit from your journey. That's sort of the first thing. And then the second thing is also to understand, but that's obviously a future thing where we are, I think, not quite sure yet, how and if there is a potential for collaboration, because I think you've released this caching functionality for Git CDN on GitLab. So we loved seeing that. And so we are just interested in seeing if there is a potential for collaborating on this, how we can potentially use some of your work, right? Or you can use some of ours, all of those questions. And I can tell you what I know, which is maybe not as much. So I know that Renault uses GitLab already, right? I mean, that is pretty obvious from seeing that you host all of these functionalities on GitLab. But I'm not so familiar with sort of your journey to actually creating this this package yourself. So maybe that's sort of my first question, is like, tell us a little bit about the history of this project and how you're using it.
Okay, I don't know, Nico, you want to talk about it?
As you want, we made a short presentation, so this is very brief. I think we can discuss about everything after that. I can share the presentation. I'm not sure I will be the person with the most knowledge to explain everything.
Maybe Pierre, you can talk about the history.
Yeah, I explained the history as you present it. Maybe you can put Nico as a presenter so that he can share his screen.
Yes.
Should be okay, no?
Yes. Yeah, we can see your screen. Mm-hmm.
So okay, I will start to explain. So this is there is just 2 slides. First one is to give an overview of the architecture about our tool Git CDN. So our central Git server is of course GitLab, which is hosted on AWS. And we needed some Git replication, so Git mirrors on several Renault offices. So the biggest one are, of course, in France. So France is, we have one in Paris, one in Toulouse, and one in Sophia Antipolis. And we have other smallest replication in India, Romania, or Japan. And, okay, go ahead.
If I can add a bit of history in there. So basically, the Renault is working on the several main projects. That's one of the choice why we choose GitLab in the beginning. Our main experience was with Gerrit before, and the team was expert in Android systems. But when we were hired by Renault, we not only was on Android project, but also on other autonomous driving project and software, all the vehicle the software that exists in the vehicle. So that's why we chose GitLab in the beginning and not Gerrit, because GitLab had a very good CI system that made the developers independent. But the problem is that the GitLab was in AWS, and we had a quite tiny, not that tiny, but it was still too short bandwidth to connect to the main GitLab server in AWS. So, and the Android CI, you know, a typical Android repository tree is 40 gigabyte of Git repository. So we need to download that all the time. So sometimes we want to go back from scratch. So we have to optimize also the going back from scratch. And it was a bit the same for other projects. Those are very large projects because there is for autonomous driving, there are lots of video data in order to do the test, kind of thing. So that's why we needed some mirroring locally near to the CI workers.
Yeah, for information, the CI is on Prime, is not on cloud.
Yeah, when we started, we had a lot of servers inside our own data center. So we wanted to reuse that. That's why we have a system where all our workers are inside our intranet. And we have a central repository that is in the cloud so that we can share the source code to other companies as Renault, because we have a lot of partnerships. So that's basically the reason why we have such infrastructure. I think
so
I answered
your GitLab instance. Oh, sorry. So your GitLab instance is on AWS, but the CI is on-prem. The runners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and by the way, other thing is we have a starter license, and this is the main reason why we are not using Geo, or one of the reasons why we are not using Geo. The second reason is that as we started Git CDN, I'm not sure, I didn't follow exactly your feature set, but at the time, the mirroring was executed every 10 minutes, I think. And this is an issue for CI, because whenever you have delay on the mirroring, that means you need to delay your own CI to start, because obviously the CI started right after the push. And if the CI workers are pulling from the mirrors, then you have to make sure before that the mirrors are up to date. And in our experience with Gerrit before, we had already mirroring in place, and the mirroring in Gerrit is push. So that means the master is pushing to the mirrors. And even if with Gerrit it is in real time, it's not every 10 minutes like Geo. But even with that, you get some delay during the mirroring, and it has been very difficult to synchronize the CI. We had to add a job in the beginning of each CI and query the master Git repository to get all the repository status, the commit where it was in the main branch, and then make sure this was exactly the same and the replication was done in the mirrors. It was really difficult and not reliable to wait for this synchronization. So here with Git CDN, the design is to have on-demand server, means that whoever is asking for the latest version, he will get it, and the way it's done, it will just get the latest version.
Okay, can I, there's a lot to unpack. Thank you so much for the summary. Can I quickly give you my summary of this and then ask a couple of questions? My understanding is that when you are on a starter license, and when you evaluated sort of Geo, that must have been a while ago. Like, I don't know exactly.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay. Okay. You said at that point the replication, did not really meet your needs. And when I say your needs here, the main thing that you needed to work reliably was actually to be able to use your on-prem runners, for CI with the latest commits on your main repository. So if there's any delay, right, on that, in the replication, then you would have issues and would be unreliable. So your goal here really was to utilize these mirrors for your CI builds. Is that the use case that we are trying to address?
Yeah, that's the main use case, that the main usage of our Git CDN, and of course, it's also used by developers. It's much faster for developers to get their builds, but not so much because nowadays the one is quite good for single developers, so it's not so important.
Okay, so essentially you have two
really
types of users. You build farm. Yeah.
I think there is another issue also with Geo, which is mainly because from AWS, we cannot initiate a connection to our local CI workers.
Yeah, that's true. For a push replication, that would mean that the central Git has direct access to the mirroring. And it's not the case for security reasons. Our cloud is separated and cannot initiate any connection to the intranet, which can be done in the reverse way via proxies. So the proxy are only one way, only from intranet to the cloud. So we couldn't use Geo for that reason as well.
Okay, so you actually have to go via a proxy from your on-prem runners to actually access the AWS as well.
Right.
Okay. Interesting.
That's also why we cannot use the generic Git mirrors, and we had to develop our own solution.
Okay. That provides already a lot of context. Another question that I had, and this is something that we are thinking about for customers like yourself, is that in some instances there's maybe also sort of a cost factor, right? It's like you're interested in specific Git repositories, maybe, right, for your developers. Maybe for CI not so much, but you like being able to do things on demand rather than replicating everything all the time also has a cost implication. Did that play a role for you in that decision as well?
Yeah, of course, but eventually, as we are doing most of our CI jobs in intranet, eventually we nearly duplicate everything. There are very few projects that don't set up any CI, so this is a little bit less of a problem.
Less important.
We have in Indian office. India office is mostly working on a single project. So this Git CDN is more because India is very far away. They have very bad or not very good internet connection. There is a lot of latency, so the download rate are not good. So here the Git CDN is mostly used by the developers, and in that case, the on-demand capability means that we don't download everything is quite important. And the same goes for Japan.
Yeah, so for the devs, that's maybe more important than for your CI use case. Okay, thank you.
It's more for users.
Yeah, I think I understand that. And so, so in a way, the development of Git CDN here was driven, if I understand this, by a number of factors, right? The first one was your specific sort of setup with how your GitLab is actually deployed on AWS and your on-prem workers and having requirements to go through a proxy, right? Then you wanted to enable CI reliably in that way, and the existing solution was not sufficient for that. And then, the third one is this sort of on-demand for developers overall. Is that sort of a fair summary of this? Okay, cool. No, I'm always trying to summarize it a little bit so it doesn't get lost in, in translation, essentially. Great. Okay, and so Git CDN, as I understand it at this moment, is used in production for Renault right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe we can go to the second slide for that. We wanted to show you a little bit the facts of the production very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the main geos we have three. So three in France, one in Japan, and then we have the small geos like in India, things like this. We think that we have a lot of traffic. I'm not sure exactly how is the traffic on GitLab, but we are always impressed when we look at the actual results. So it's about 20 terabytes per week on a single Git CDN. So probably as we have three. We didn't look at all the results, but it's more like 50, 60 terabytes per week that is moved inside the local network. And then our machine are pretty big, so it's a matter of like 20 CPUs, 100 gigabytes of RAM, and then SSD disks. And of course, we have the network as fast as we can. We put initially a lot of RAM because we thought that the file system cache would be important. But back in September, we switched from spinning disks to SSD disk because in the end we couldn't fit everything in the RAM cache, and we had a lot of activity in the spinning disk. And this was causing a lot of I/O latency and lots of slowness were experienced. So that's why we now recommend that SSD disks are used for such data. Then in terms of number, we have approximately 40K GitLab projects. Our cache size is in the order of 3.5 terabytes. And what's important is also we are using a lot of LFS.
Yeah, that
300
is
gigabytes.
common.
Yeah, so this was important for us to also mirror the LFS, which is not that easy. And then also we implement a cache of upload pack. I know that there have been an issue to do that for GitLab. I'm not sure what is the status of that, but basically we see that a lot of CPU was handled just to compute the upload pack again and again. And also the fact that we don't quite use LFS everywhere that we should. So base repository can become quite big. So eventually the output pack, you end up having like 2 gigs, 5 gigs output pack, and you have to uncompress and recompress all the data again and again in gzip, which is the technical details of how Git is actually working. So the Git upload pack cache is very important to the performance of this. What to say? So we also have a cache ratio that we wanted to show you. So just in the right, this is the upload pack cache ratio. Basically, in the left, sorry, the direct means that we are actually using the cache, and the miss is that we are rebuilding the cache. But all the am I wrong? No.
No, just I think we should present the different level of cache.
Maybe go ahead.
The first level is the Git repo cache, a bare Git clone on the Git CDN. Git CDN is working like a proxy. So the client configure is Git config to use Git CDN when it asks Git repo from the GitLab. So the first level is the Git repo in the Git CDN. And then we have rules, criteria to cache the upload pack. Not all the time, but when we clone from, I think is clone for all objects, I think. And so the first, the chart to the right is the number of requests we have on Git CDN versus the number of query we do on AWS.
Okay.
So we can see there is a big.
So this means most of the time we don't even have to query AWS in terms of upload pack. But
Yes.
what we do, what is very important, is that we always fetch the Infrarefs. So in order to know that we are aligned with the main server, we always fetch the Infrarefs, and we know that GitLab already heavily caches the Infrarefs, so this doesn't. This is not so much of a problem, but this is very important, and it's a key measure to make sure that we are always up to date with the master. The only thing that we don't do is the final upload pack query, which is the most CPU intensive for GitLab and for everything. Go ahead.
So, on the left graph, what we call direct is when we are using the local Git repo cache of Git CDN without caching the upload pack. The miss is the upload pack we have to generate and put in cache. And the hit is all upload pack already computed, which is requested, which are requested.
It's quite nice if you look at those numbers.
Yeah, I think this is the reason why it's so effective. And I mean, if I think that if we wouldn't have a Git CDN, our main AWS, even if you don't talk about the bandwidth issue, I think the AWS would have totally exploded if we wouldn't have that. Or actually, the cost of ownership would be very intense because there is no such improvement. Even in GitLab, there are no such performance measure. But the thing is, we have a pretty inefficient CI as well because we are using Docker and Kubernetes runner, and Kubernetes runner is starting a clone from scratch all the time. We don't reuse the work environment, and this is partially on purpose in order to make sure the CI is always clean. So we prefer adding some more pressure on the CDN rather than take care about the instability, having to do incremental fetch on the runners.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting these numbers. One thing that I can just see here is that you can also perform a no downtime rolling update on Git CDN, which is really important to us. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a 100% horizontal design. so that there is no state in Git CDN, so you can really with all the standard DevOps procedure do rolling updates.
Great, thank you. That really helped me understand where you are at. I think I'd like to open the floor sort of for some of the Geo team members here to ask maybe some questions about this, and if you have any. I think everybody is probably still digesting some of this.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. Really fascinating to see your use case. I was just curious about the tooling that you have to track some of these, to track like the track some of these metrics like the cache ratio. How are you getting that data? Is that is there like an API to that into the Git CDN? Do you have like separate instrumentation that like in a different repo that you're using?
So this was really a key problem for us in order to stabilize the product. We had a lot of sweat because when it doesn't work, it's very problematic. There is tons of requests at the same time. It's written in async.io in Python. So one of the issues is that, so async.io allows a lot of requests at the same time very efficiently, but then lots of things happen at the same time. So the main way we do debug that is by using logging. So we are using big logging infrastructure with Elasticsearch Kibana. So those are Kibana dashboards that you see. And we are having just how much logs per week do we have?
In a row, we have 50 gigabytes of log per week.
So that's a lot. So we are logging a lot, and we have investing a lot in structuring the logs so that each log has lots of data associated with it that allows to track it, where it comes from, what are the status of this request, and that's how we do it. But it was a long process. It's very difficult to know exactly what kind of data we must add because we need to not pull too much logs. If we do that, then the Elastic will just overload. And we are also thinking about doing a Prometheus endpoint in order to collect metrics so that we don't rely that much on logs. Because really logs, it consumes a lot of data and resources in order to be processed.
Plus, the key thing we did on logs is to keep context, to have a follow-up of each instances of state machines, etc. Then we have mainly summary of each states at the end of requests, and then we can do crunch to have this kind of stats.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. I mean, GitLab relies on Prometheus for our monitoring and logging as well. So I think that's having those metrics available is probably quite useful.
The problem with metrics with Prometheus is that as we were experimenting on the thing, when you do metrics is at the time where you really master your product, you know exactly what kind of issue you will have, so you can put metrics point at the right place. But yeah, with Git CDN, there has been a lot of very difficult to debug issues. So in that case, just adding one log in particular to make some hypotheses on the issues problem was very important, and it allows us to debug things. And now we are pretty happy because we don't have too much issues anymore. So we are in the phase where we open sourced it last year, and yeah, we will go into more cleaning up the code and that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. This was a great presentation. It helped us a lot. I think there's a lot for us here to digest as well. Because we are a little bit short on time, and I want to be respectful of your agenda, but I can share sort of my perspective on this and why I think this is quite interesting for us. It's like the Geo team, so everybody that you see here, we are currently and probably for the next quarter working on disaster recovery capabilities inside GitLab that rely under the hood on our replication framework for replicating Git data and for replicating other data types. Following that, we are quite interested in improving our capabilities in the geo replication area. And I am aware that one of the use cases that many of our customers have is, using Geo for CI, and they face some of these issues, with regards to our ability to handle all of these interactions, which is, I think exactly what you described earlier. And on top of that, we sometimes, deal with customers who have very large repositories, and they also, we have selective sync capabilities where you can select a few things, right, and say, like, please only replicate this. But we are seeing some constraints in these areas as well, where folks, would like to have a local cache for what's actually required, rather than having to select ahead of time what they need, or replicating everything, which is costly also from an infrastructure perspective, because you have to hold that on a potentially very large instance. So these are some of the things that we are hoping to address sort of in, going forward. And so I think that's why talking about some of these things now is quite useful for us. Also, given that you've open sourced it, trying to understand, how some of these things may fit together or not, right? Because GitLab has a very different technology stack, for example. But maybe there are some ways we can actually learn from each other here, or make use of your amazing work, because I think that would be really, really fun, quite frankly. And so that is where we are currently at. So we still have sort of, let's say, 3-month runway, until we start evaluating some of these more geo replication focused parts, but we're doing quite a bit of, or starting to ramp up our research and our focus in that area. So I think it's a good time to talk here.
So about the time, we actually scheduled 1 hour meeting. I wasn't sure, you were suggesting the meeting was only 30 minutes for you?
Yes. I have a few more minutes.
We have 1 hour. All the team, I reserved 1 hour, so we can go up until 3 p.m.
Okay, yeah, I have a little bit more time as well, okay. So we can continue.
Because I would be interesting to discuss, but maybe it's a bit early for you to discuss what kind of collaboration you are up to. So obviously Git CDN has been designed to be very independent from GitLab. I have tested it against Gerrit, for example. I have some friend that is using it to mirror some Gerrit. So we would really like to it to be independent from GitLab in terms of we won't have had any feature that would restrict the product only to GitLab. So I think this should be clear. Yeah, I think this could be, I mean, I don't know, inside GitLab as part of, so we don't see any issue that it's documented by GitLab to be officially used by other users. I don't see any issue about that.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. And I think the way I see this is it's an independent product, right, that can work with different Git systems. And I think that is that's completely understood. I think it's nice to see, because this must work particularly well for your like GitLab installation, because that is what you're using right now. I think for us, there's also a question of how we are very much at the beginning of our thinking. So please take none of this as we are going to do this, right? I'm thinking out loud here. From my perspective, the question is, for example, is this something that if we configured it with GitLab, it would actually serve part of this use case for CI already? Can we document that, right? Can we support this, right? And say like, hey, this is something that already exists. This is how it works with GitLab. Maybe there's an option for some form of sort of a more plug-in based architecture, right? Where we say, hey, if you want to use Geo and you want to use Git CDN as your backend for your replication for some of those things, this is how to do it. That would be quite neat, because I foresee, there may be different strengths and weaknesses for this replication style, right? And what you need to accomplish with it. And so those are some of my thoughts at the moment. I think what we probably won't be able to do, but please team members correct me, is all of this is written in Python, right? We run on Ruby, right? So we would not be able to, I think, utilize it and integrate it somehow, right, into what we have right now. It wouldn't be a separate thing, because that, yeah, Nick.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear others' thoughts. I guess I mean, we could still, maybe not into, say, like the main GitLab Rails code base, but I think we certainly with like Omnibus, like our distributions, like with our Omnibus package, we integrate things that are written in other languages. So maybe that's a potential option to explore.
Yeah, I was going to say Mattermost comes to mind in terms of other products that we effectively distribute but don't own, right? Something that came to mind for me is we have the Oneclick installs for our operations, like the GitLab operations stuff. And this could be a good potential item for that, because so the Oneclick installs include GitLab runners and stuff like that, so that you can just like put them in a Kubernetes cluster, right? Or maybe now AWS also. This could be a cool thing in there.
Yeah, so basically our release is a Docker image. So if we are talking about Kubernetes, it's very, very simple to deploy Git CDN in a Kubernetes environment. In fact, we are doing all our rolling update with Docker. We are not using a Kubernetes cluster because we have bare metal servers, because we need so much performance, so we didn't want to add some overhead. So that's basically a rolling update with just a simple Nginx plus Docker. But yeah, one-click install sounds like really good value added for GitLab, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is, you released this under the MIT license, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think there are also some other potential opportunities here. For example, for this specific CI use case, right? I know that the requirements around what you must be able to do with your replication engine are a little bit different, for example, from a disaster recovery use case. And so, you know, that may also be an interesting story saying, if you want to use, you know, a Git CDN just for CI, right? We can, you know, because that would be quite useful. We could wrap that there as well and say, for this specific thing, we rely on Git CDN, for example, to make sure that you always get the latest changes. Because I think because I know at least a few very large customers who have very large repositories who also use a different build infrastructure for some things, and there that may be helpful.
What could be also helpful is to have a shared data between Git CDN and actual GitLab. This is not exactly the case right now. This is not possible to do it because Git CDN uses hierarchy-based storage to store the Git data, while GitLab with Gitali is using a hashed usage with the capability of having several Gitalis. So I'm not sure if this makes sense to integrate, but this is something that maybe we want to think about, how we can have maybe API call to GitLab API to know where is the storage for that, and to have Git CDN directly use this mirroring path. I don't know, something like this.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few interesting things we can do here. Yeah, I think what I would like to do is, and that's just a high level comment, because I think we are still very early on in this, is to you know, to make it possible ultimately that folks can benefit from the work that you have done here in GitLab as well. Because I think if that makes sense, you know, then I think that would be a great collaborative piece. The specifics of how to do that, you know, I think we will have to think a little bit more about. And yeah, but I'm quite impressed by what you've built here and how it seems to perform. I think there are many learnings to be had here as well.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe what I'll do in the next as a sort of follow-up is I'll summarize the call and send it into the issue that we created. That's maybe also a question for me. I just reached out in your issue tracker because that felt like the simplest way of actually getting in touch. Is that a good place for us to also continue sort of some async work if we're interested in chatting, to reach out in there and just have a discussion, and then if the need arises, actually get on a call again, because that's a workflow that we are quite familiar with inside GitLab, and we can cross-link to our own development, you know, like workflow as well.
Yeah, I guess this is the main way of doing open source, and that's why
Yes.
we open sourced it in this manner. So let's continue on the issue. We are all listening to the events for this issue, so that's fine. And yeah, I don't know if you want to have a live chat or something. Maybe we can do that later, but for now, probably issue is fine.
Super. Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think what we need to do on our end is, as I said, I'll summarize our call, and then I think we need to think a little bit more about what we think are some possible next steps on our end and how we can utilize some of this, for Geo going forward and how we will do that. And then I think when we have some ideas there, then we can start a discussion and see, what your input is as well, because I think it would be great to keep you in the loop on those bits and see what we can come up with. Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I was very very happy that you you accepted the call and that you were happy to meet, and we're also available if you ever are interested in something specific to Geo, or if you have any questions or anything for us, please feel free to reach out. You can ping me in issues or other team members. We'd also like to make ourselves available for you if you have any specific things to actually discuss or any input. We're always open for feedback as well.
Okay. I guess we are very happy as well to have been contacted by you. We are very proud that this will be used inside a GitLab product, and that's basically why we wanted to do it open source, so that we are happy about our product, and we want to have other people using it. It's not a core business of Renault, so it's better that it's useful for everybody, and if more people are using it, maybe we will have some bug reports and some bug fix. So eventually it will be better for everybody.
Yeah, no, I think that's very much in the spirit of collaboration for GitLab as well. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.